What's up, guys? I'm going to show you some blood work of mine through a service I use called InsideTracker. Now, full disclosure, this is a paid post. So they did pay me to do this, but InsideTracker is something I've already used and already have loved for a couple of years now. So it is a product I've used for a while. I do like it. I think it's a great service, but full transparency, this is a paid for post. I'm going to show you just how easy it is to use this service. You don't need a doctor's orders in most states, and you can schedule your blood test or have them come to your house. So I've already gotten 2 blood draws with InsideTracker over the last couple years. This will be my 3rd, and we'll get to see how my results have changed over time. So come with me and we'll check it out. Today's date, yeah. Yep, those are all correct. I've been fasting for about 12 hours, which is important for this test because it's a metabolic panel. So I'm going to get things like LDL cholesterol done, fasting blood glucose, HbA1c, and a lot of these markers. HbA1c less sensitive though, but like the fasting blood glucose, the fasting cholesterol, all the different types of cholesterol, the subfractions, those are all very sensitive to fasting. Triglycerides is very sensitive to fasting. So, you know, if you eat in the morning or something like that, your levels of TAGs will be really elevated and your blood glucose will obviously be elevated. So we fast for all that stuff. Some of the other measures are less sensitive, but again, it kind of gives you a much better baseline level to look at. And then we'll get things like testosterone is actually sensitive to fasting. And even like, you know, I basically just drank water because even if you have caffeine in the morning, caffeine for some people can acutely elevate blood glucose. So again, just been complete water fasting. And then once we're finished here, I will get my breakfast and then we'll actually have some educational content to film after this. Got a boo-boo. Thank you. Thank you for your help. And that's it. Now they send it off and usually within a few days, get the results back. So we'll see. Thank you, Brittany, for participating. We appreciate it. And for doing the best blood draw ever. Did not feel a thing. All right, so just got my results back from InsideTracker, so I'm just going to show you guys how it works. So this is cool because I can see my most recent test right here, and then I can see the previous tests. Okay, so it pulls up the unoptimized markers first. So my AST, my creatine kinase, and my eosinophil percentage are all modestly elevated. AST is a marker of liver function. That's totally normal to be modestly elevated when when you resistance train, when you're on a high protein diet. Not really worried about that in like the context of things. Like, and what you can do is you can actually click on some of the individual markers and it'll tell you what it means for your health. So like, for example, creatine kinase, which has been stable for me at about like 1100. Found in muscle cells and plays a major role in producing energy during the first few seconds of exercise. Strenuous exercise can damage muscle cells, causing CK to leak in the blood. High levels of CK are a sign of muscle breakdown, signaling to your body that rest and recovery are needed. When CK levels are high, risk of injury and further damage increases, and recovery from training is slower. So it's not odd that I would have a high creatine kinase because I trained hard and I had trained the day before this test. So that's pretty normal for that to be modestly elevated. So eosinophil is a white blood cell that acts as infection fighters in the immune system. They're typically activated during allergic responses and associated with chronic inflammation. These can be signs of long-term inflammation. Now, again, mine is modestly elevated and it's been basically the same since I've had it tested. And I'm under no infection that I'm aware of. I do have some allergies, but I'm not really worried about inflammation because as you'll see, my actual markers of directly tested inflammation are actually really low. So those are out of range and then like unoptimized. So these are markers that are in the normal range, but could be a little bit better essentially. So ferritin, that is, it stores iron. So mine is a little bit high. And above optimal levels of ferritin are associated with elevated triglycerides and LDL cholesterol. Well, as we're going to see, my triglycerides and LDL are both really good. So again, I'm not really worried about this because it's a surrogate marker for those other things. My iron, actually a little bit low here, interestingly. So I might need to As you can see, it's been dropping. And so it's not out of like good range, but it's out of the optimized range. So I'm not really sure what that's from. I do eat red meat, which has heme iron in it. That's usually pretty good. But I may look at supplementing with some iron to get myself back into that range. And that's what's great about this, is it not only shows you like what's optimized versus unoptimized, but then also tells you how you can improve those things. So vitamin B12, I'm actually higher than the optimal range, but I'm not out of normal range. Again, that's what's cool about InsideTracker, is it's not just telling you what the reference range is, it's telling you what's best for optimal health. High levels of B12 can cause rash or dry, itchy skin. Taking excess B12 does not impact energy levels or cognitive function. Really, like the downsides to this are headaches, nausea, discomfort in the chest. I don't have any of that, so I'm not really worried. This probably comes because a lot of supplements and a lot of energy drinks have B vitamins in them. So it would make sense that my B vitamins might be a little bit elevated. Testosterone to cortisol ratio here. This is close to the optimized level, but not really quite in the optimized range. A higher score indicates that your body is getting enough rest and recovery to increase muscle mass and strength. A lower score may be an indicator of poor recovery, high stress levels, or low quality of sleep, which can result in muscle breakdown and fatigue. So again, put this with high CK. My training has been really intense because I'm leading up to Worlds. So I probably need to get more rest than I've been getting. I've been averaging probably just under 7 hours of sleep a night. Usually I feel rested on 7, 7.5. 7.5 is where I feel really good. But I just haven't been quite getting there, and I just need to make sleep more of a priority. Again, I tell people all the time, sleep is very important, and I do usually do a good job with it, but the last couple months with travel and everything has not been great. So these were optimized, and now they are just slightly above. So the optimized range goes up to 85 milligrams per deciliter. I'm 87. Again, not super worried about that. Triglycerides is looking at how much triacylglycerides are in the blood between your different forms of blood lipids. And so typically, if these are in an optimal level, it indicates good metabolic health. Now, what's cool about this is you can go to the results, what they mean for you. Also, you can click on how to improve. And then they give you all these things that you can do. So add a serving of nuts to your day, sleep 7 to 9 hours, olive oil, workouts. So all these things are, referenced in scientific studies that may improve triglycerides. So let's look at insulin here. So my insulin is actually low. So my fasting insulin is pretty low, which means I have good insulin sensitivity. So insulin helps drive glucose into cells. So if we look down here, it says, usually people struggle with high insulin. That's what we're worried about. But below optimized levels of insulin, it says here, are associated with increased risk of chronic conditions in otherwise healthy population. Below optimized levels in insulin can result in increased blood sugar levels and may indicate underlying health issues like type 1 diabetes, hypopituitarism, or pancreatic disease that are best discussed with the healthcare provider. Well, none of my other things are out of range, and my blood sugar is normal. So not really too worried about this. Again, it's still in the normal reference range. It's just slightly out of the optimal range. Then if we look at HbA1c. HbA1c is, I think, probably the best marker for insulin sensitivity, or at least one of the best, because it looks at your overall exposure in your blood to glucose, because HbA1c is a site on hemoglobin that can be glycosylated, and it's glycosylated, or glucose is added to it based on the concentrations of glucose found in your blood. So if we pull this up, it represents the average amount of glucose in your blood for the past 90 to 120 days. And that's because it takes 90 to 120 days for your red blood cells to turn over. So if we're looking at this, I'm at 5.3%, optimal range 5.2%. And before this, I had 2 tests that were at 5%. Not really worried about that small increase. Again, my insulin was low. Unless that continues to climb and insulin continues to decline, I'm not really worried about it, but we'll keep an eye on it. And then how to improve. I mean, it's stuff we know of, sleeping, minimally processed foods, exercise, psyllium husk, fiber, these things make a difference. I already get like 50 to 60 grams of fiber a day, so not really worried about that. So then if we look at fasting glucose, my fasting glucose is in the normal reference range. It's slightly outside the optimized range, but fasting levels of glucose are less indicative of metabolic health than something like HbA1c, because HbA1c is very sensitive to how much glucose overall is in your bloodstream over time. Glucose can be elevated due to stress, poor night's sleep, and not fasting for 12 hours before your blood test. I did fast for 12 hours before my blood test, so I'm not really worried about that. I don't recall whether or not I had a good night's sleep the night before, but obviously that can have an impact. So, but again, this is going to be something I just pay attention to, but I'm not really super concerned about. GGT, this is another liver enzyme. Again, it's 1 unit per liter outside the optimized range, but it's far below what the reference range is. So again, this is totally normal to be elevated with people who resistance train or people who have a high protein diet. So those are the unoptimized biomarkers. There were 14 of them. But on the plus side, 40 of them are optimized. So albumin, which is usually an indicator of like overall nutrition status. ApoB, I'm really excited about this. So ApoB is the component of the lipoproteins that is damaging to the endothelium and is probably the best indicator, one of the best indicators of your risk of heart disease. And so we are at an optimized level. That's fantastic. Really happy about this. Now, I didn't have it tested in my initial test, and so I don't know what it was back in December of 2022, but really happy that that's in a good place because I was somebody with elevated LDL cholesterol. In fact, let's go to LDL cholesterol. Now, I can't show you past December of 2022, but I can tell you 6 months prior to that, I had my LDL cholesterol done, and it was 150. And that was with eating under 10% calories from saturated fat and with eating over 50 grams of fiber per day. And so my family tends to run high LDL cholesterol. And again, LDL cholesterol and apolipoprotein B are independent risk factors for heart disease. And so I began taking a low-dose statin. So I took Zetia and pravastatin, and within 6 months, it knocked me down to under 100, so 100 to 93. And then another 6 months, or another 9 months later, I was down to 81. And now, another 9 months later, I'm down to about 74 milligrams per deciliter. So really super happy with that. That is, they've even shown going from high LDL to normal LDL reduces your risk of heart disease, but going from normal to low LDL further reduces your risk of heart disease. So again, very happy about that, and hopefully we continue to see that go down. Speaking of cholesterol, let's look at HDL cholesterol. So I'm at 70, and it's gone up a little bit. It was at 64 in December of 2022, then 72, and then 70. So I'm right around 70. HDL is basically a marker of good metabolic health. So I am very high in the optimized range, and that's good. Again, indicates good insulin sensitivity, good overall metabolic health. I'm not going to go through each and every single one of these, but I'm going to touch on the ones that I think most people will be interested. Basophil, normal. Basophil percentage, normal. Again, those are kind of immune markers, which again makes that one immune marker that was kind of out of range. Not super worried about it. Calcium, good. Check out cortisol. So this is cool. So check out where I was in December of 2022. Very high cortisol. Now this was a very stressful period of my life. I had just started going through my second divorce. It was a time where my sleep was low. Again, stress was high. Life was kind of chaotic. But look what happens in like 9 months. Almost cut it in half. And then now even a little bit lower. So just reducing your psychological stress. And I mean, did I do other things? Sure. But reducing my psychological stress, getting better sleep, I strongly attribute this decline in cortisol to those adjustments I made in my lifestyle. Now, if we look at testosterone, now this might look bad to some people, okay? So this is actually the lowest my testosterone's ever registered, 688 nanograms per deciliter. Previous, it was 764, and before that, it was 948, okay? Now, I'm still in the optimized range. This could be partially due to the statin use, which is lowering LDL cholesterol, which may be lowering that metabolism into testosterone because testosterone is synthesized from those hormones. But let's go look at free testosterone, which is really what makes the difference. Yeah, it's dropped a little bit, but again, still in the optimized range. So what I would say here is I think a lot of this boils down to me just getting better sleep and continuing to reduce my psychological stress. But again, if there's a trade-off between slightly less optimized testosterone and a lower risk of cardiovascular disease, I'm gonna take the lower risk of cardiovascular disease. Okay, then if we're sticking with the sex hormones, let's look at estradiol. So it wasn't tested previously, but it's optimized, okay? So this is in the optimized range, not really worried about it. So let's look at progesterone next. Again, wasn't tested previously, but is in the optimized range on this one. All those sex hormones appear to be optimized. And then let's look at sex hormone binding globulin. Okay, so this is actually good because this has been going down, okay? So as this has dropped, this is one of the reasons that my total testosterone has gone down, but my free testosterone hasn't changed that much because my sex hormone binding globulin has actually reduced as well and is now in the optimized range. Other interesting things, let's look at CRP. High sensitivity C-reactive protein is pretty much the gold standard for looking at inflammation. As you can see here, my inflammatory status is very, very low, almost out of the detectable range, 0.2 milligrams per liter. You can be up to 0.7 and be optimized, and you can be up to 3 and be in the reference range. So I am less than 1/10 of the reference range of HCRP. So this means I have good blood pressure, blood glucose levels, good insulin sensitivity, and a lower relative risk of heart disease. So just going through everything else kind of quickly, we won't pull it up individually, but folate, again, optimized, hematocrit, optimized, hemoglobin, optimized, those have been pretty stable. Lymphocytes are optimized, lymphocyte percentage is optimized. All my other immune and inflammatory markers are optimized. So monocyte count, monocyte percentage, again, immune markers, neutrophil count, immune markers, neutrophil percentage, all those in the optimized range. So again, that one marker with the immune system was modestly elevated, but I'm not worried about it because everything else is in line. Now, if we look at hemoglobin markers, so if we look at mean corpuscular hemoglobin, MHC, mean corpuscular hemoglobin percentage, and then mean corpuscular volume, these are all optimized. And then getting into like platelets, so mean platelet volume is optimized. Platelets are optimized. You don't want too many platelets because too many platelets put you at risk for blood clot. And then things like potassium, magnesium, sodium, these are normal. And then TSH here, this is thyroid stimulating hormone. So high TSH indicates low thyroid hormone. But this, as you can see, right in the middle of the optimized range, not really worried about it. Vitamin D, my vitamin D has actually gone up over time, so that's great. It's in the optimized range. Could be higher. I have started supplementing with a vitamin D supplement. And then again, one final immune marker, white blood cells, which have come down over time, which that's interesting actually. Let's click on that. As an indicator of inflammation throughout the body, having a white blood cell count in the optimal range indicates a strong immune system and improved overall health. So again, this is when I was going through a really stressful time, and as my stress has declined, my white blood cell count has come down. Now, I can't completely tie it to that, but I think that that's a good indicator that things are moving in the right direction. So overall, I'm really happy with these results. Again, you know, there are things I can improve on, and I think a lot of these come down to I need to be better about my recovery. I need to be better about getting sleep. I need to be better about getting in bed on time. And I think if I do better with my recovery, I'll see some of these things move back into the optimized range. So that's why I love InsideTracker, because I can see all this stuff And you can look at it in different ways. You can do it as a list. You can also do it in categories. So in categories, this is kind of cool to look at. So you can look at the things that affect cognition. So cognition, they score it overall. My overall score is good. Not quite optimized. My overall recovery is good, but not optimized. Again, I think that's something I could really improve on. That will probably help with cognition. Metabolism, in terms of like blood lipids, blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, is in the optimal range. Endurance is optimal. Gut health is optimal. And this is again looking at like inflammation, cortisol, and blood lipids and blood sugar. Heart health is optimal, which I'm very happy about because that's something I'm worried about because of my family history of heart disease. Hormone balance is very, very good, 96 out of 100. Inflammation is optimal. Only thing that was a little bit out of reference range was ferritin, so again, very happy about that. Now, these are indicators of sleep, which says it's optimized, but I would actually say that I could improve this, and if I improve this, some of those other things would improve. Fitness is optimal. We know that. And so I just think it's so cool how you can reference everything here, and then they actually give you, like you can click on things and see how to improve it. You can learn more. It's just so easy to use how they've laid it out, and the whole process is so easy, and that's why I love InsideTracker, and that's why I think it is a great tool to have for optimizing your health. So there you guys have it. That's the reasons I love InsideTracker, because it's easy to do. Like I said, they came to my house, or I could have gone to a facility, 5-10 minutes away, done the blood draw, and then a week later got an email, your results are here, went to my results, and not only do they give you results, but they tell you what your results mean. They also tell you how you can improve them and the lifestyle and dietary interventions you can make to improve those markers. And they don't just give you reference ranges, which are the normal ranges. They tell you what is optimal for health and how you can improve to get those into optimal ranges. So the ease of use, the ease of understanding, the ease of implementation, and being able to view all your results over time, I just think it's such a great buy. And in most states, you don't even have to go to a doctor to get these done when you use InsideTracker. So it's just so convenient, so easy, and it's so much great feedback to help you optimize your health so you can feel better, hopefully live longer, and have a better quality of life. Well, guys, there you have it. My full blood work, and you can see how it's changed over time. Again, there were some great things in there. Seeing my cortisol go down significantly, seeing my LDL improve, seeing my markers of metabolic health improve. Those are all great things. You could argue that there's a drop in testosterone there, but my free testosterone has stayed pretty consistently in the optimal range, so I'm not super worried, although I am going to focus on getting better sleep because I know that will help my overall recovery and helping to pump those testosterone levels back up, hopefully. If you guys want to use this service, I highly recommend it. I think InsideTracker is not only great because it's convenient, you can just go online and schedule your blood draw. In most states, you don't need a doctor's orders, but it also puts it in a portal where it's going to show your results over time, but also give you feedback on lifestyle factors that you can modify to improve the markers that are not in the optimal range. So if you guys are interested in trying it out, you can use my code Biolayne and get 15% off all those services. Click the link in the description and check it out. Thanks, InsideTracker.